Hi, my name's James Antofer. I'm an English 2 teacher at Lincoln High School, and I'd like to present to the school board about student council lotteries. And so before I get into the student council lottery, what the student council lottery is and why we need this change in the district, I want to return to our big vision for the district. So our district is committed to being anti-racist, and we made that commitment before 2020. We had our town halls to hear more from our students and families about anti-racism, and then all of that was collected in a report. I know that you all have read that report and thought about the report a lot of times. Here are the findings, just to refresh all of our memory. And I can tell that our school board is working on findings one and two. In my position and in the English positions, we've seen big changes in terms of the curricular changes and also in terms of recruitment, selection, and retainment. Just to give one example, almost directly after those town halls, we created that principal and special assignment position, that director of talent support position. So I don't need to go into that. This is work that you all have done. What I do think, though, is we're missing action on findings 3 and 4 after those town halls. I think we're missing creating more positive school experiences for students. And I do think we're missing some of these key levers for perpetuating systemic racism. And that brings me to student government and student government lotteries. So, our student government in our district is not representative of our actual student population. We know that. I can't find the data to support that. So I want to give you some qualitative data, which is here are the press releases involving members of student government in multiple schools. In particular, this is Lincoln and Roosevelt. And what you notice from the pictures is we're not seeing representation that actually fits our school. So these are actually stories from our district website. And we can tell that because our district is only 35% white, 28% Hispanic, 20% African American. As you can see, we do not have representation of 20% African Americans in these pictures of student government work. We have more than 35% representation of white students. And we don't have a breakdown on the website in terms of male female. It's generally 50-50. At Lincoln, it's approximately 50-50, slightly more male than female. And in these photos, we see significantly more female than male students. And so at Lincoln, that was the easiest place for me to get my data from. The student government sponsor told me, and based on my experiences last year, this was at least true of last year, that the student government is around 90% white. So that's compared to 35% white in the district and 47% white in our school. So our school is not much more white than the district as a whole, yet our student government is disproportionately white. And then 80% female. Our student government is not representative in terms of our gender mix in the school. So I think that this is showing that our student government overall is not representative. We need to figure out ways to retain and support and promote uh, better student representation. And that's going to get at creating a more positive school system for students. It's going to get at some of this systemic racism that's going on. So my big idea here is lotteries. And let me show you a video that kind of gets at what these lotteries are about.
All around the world, but student government, the most obvious tool for this, tends to exclude shyer and less popular students and provide a rather empty experience. So we've reinvented student government, empowering all types of students to step up and develop real leadership. The key is replacing student elections with lotteries. So instead of a popularity contest between a few ambitious candidates campaigning for votes, students of all types volunteer for the lottery and are called upon to serve. This is a practice that was central to democracy in ancient Greece. and it makes student government far more inclusive and representative of the student body. Then after the lottery, we support the student government, empowering it to go beyond organizing dances to address real issues in their school and their community. Work that's challenging but deeply rewarding. And we make sure that along the way, responsibilities are rotated so that each and every student representative develops facilitation, public speaking, and other important leadership skills. This approach, centered on lotteries, has shown us just how much leadership potential can be unlocked in the countless students who would never run in an election, let alone win one. It's shown students that true leadership isn't about popularity or playing politics. It's about service and teamwork. And it's taught them that leadership comes in different forms and can come from each and every one of them. It's time to reimagine civic and leadership education in your school. Get started at democracyinpractice.org.
Okay, so obviously that video is showing students in Bolivia, and it's this whole idea of democracy in practice and student governments may not seem like, okay, how does that apply to Des Moines? But if we back up, we have a very unrepresentative student government in Des Moines. And we can't get from a very unrepresented one to a more representative one without getting a lot of students involved who right now don't feel safe in that process. They don't feel that that process is for them. They don't see themselves in that process. And so what we need to encourage students to be in that process. And the encouragement needs to be as simple as apply. There's no prerequisites. There's no any of those kinds of things. Apply. And then once you're in, we would have our rules. And this is how Democracy in Practice does this in terms of student government in the lotteries, is you have to show up. And so we would need to have the supports to help students go to student government and to be a part of this process and to serve on these committees. But once they're doing that, they're going to build their leadership. So if they don't have to get out in front of everybody, if they don't have to have a certain GPA, if they don't have to have some of these requirements that we've set up that have created this inequitable, systemic racist system, we could get some of that stuff out of the way, then we could have more students actually participating. And so my vision here is that I'm bringing this to you as the school board is this has to happen across the whole district. Because our students and families move around. We already know that. And so if students are serving in a lottery and they're serving at their school, we should be giving them that opportunity as they move from place to place. And that system should be across all of those schools. So they're not confused. They know, oh yeah, we're in Des Moines, and in Des Moines, we do a student council lottery. We also need to train student government sponsors as a whole district so that they know this is what this position is. This position has changed. You're empowering, you're building capacity. You're not just taking the students who are most apt, most wanting to be in student government and just shepherding them along. You're actually helping to build leadership in all students. And we would also want to bring these governments together to focus on those real issues that are addressed, that all of our students need addressed. And so if we had lotteries, then we would have student governments that would be able to all meet together. If one school doesn't have a lottery and the other one does, then they couldn't be meeting together in this same way. And finally, we need to be addressing this as a system, not as one school pilots this and says we're going to be doing lotteries. No, our district does lotteries because we believe these are more equitable. And so here's our action plan. It's that we're going to be telling people this system's changing. If you are a student government sponsor, you're empowering youth. We're going to be training you for how to do that. Your job is going to be changing, what student government's going to be changing, and that's happening next year. We will announce these lotteries to the general public, and we really want to be building student family engagement so all of these students are applying, so a representative group of our students are applying. We want to train these sponsors in the spring and then hold these lotteries in May, pushing us into next year where we can have a brand new kind of student government next year, a more equitable kind of student government. All right, thank you for listening. If you are curious about this, there are plenty of resources that I would love to share with you guys about how to actually run this system. Thanks.